All right, I'm going to call the Communications Subcommittee of the Neary Building Committee to order. It is November 7th, 2023, and it's 5:04 p.m. All three voting members are present, and I know some of our ex officio members had conflicts this afternoon. First order of business, hi Greg, is to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. So did anyone have any questions or comments on those?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
All right, no further discussion. I'll do a roll call vote. Denise?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Main reason we're here is I don't know if we're calling it a press release or just an update to the community. But I know a big thank you to Denise and Greg for taking a first stab. And I have provided I gave you my edits when I sent out this as well, just to streamline the conversation and not try to redline on the fly. But obviously can't deliberate via email, and I have no idea what Roger thinks of it. But the goal here, and I'm happy to pull it up if that would be easier, is to just align on the content and take a vote, and then we'll work through the distribution channels. So
I took a look at it earlier today, and I did realize I couldn't comment at the time, so I forgot all the things I didn't like about it, and I think it's pretty good. Although I guess probably hearing from the authors is important. But I thought the edits were, I thought the document was good, and I thought the edits were good. When you made your comments, Jason, I thought the plan was to potentially go to town meeting in the spring of 2025, which would be no more than 18 months. Is that kind of the comment behind why you inserted that edit?
yeah, so I also sent it to Skanska to get, just because they help us control the timeline, and they think that 18 months is the right number. Okay. But they had also told us we were going to town meeting in spring of 2025, which our town meeting is obviously March. Now we could obviously do a special and something like that, but the math doesn't work anymore, right? We're in November. We're not going to have a designer on board until let's call it January 1st, 2024. So we're probably looking at a late spring 2025 special if we're ready. So that's where I think we're at today. And obviously it's going to change probably 5 more times before, but I think we need to get people aligned around nothing's coming in 3 months or 6 months or whenever we have the next town meeting.
Okay.
I have one question, Jason.
Yeah.
Your comment about the concurrent meeting with the community center, I want to, and this is up for question, and I just want to make sure that I'm comfortable with that, because I don't want anybody thinking that whatever their philosophy is or their choice or wishes have nothing to do with our committee, because our committee is based on making the best decisions for the school system, the children, and the town, not on somebody's wish list. And I'm not saying that that's what you indicated. I just want to make sure that we're two separate entities, and I got concerned about putting that in there, but that's just my opinion.
And we don't have to, but my goal with putting that in there was people seem to forget we're talking about Finn still. And people, I don't necessarily hear people talking about Woodward either, but given the conversation that's going on in the community related to South Union School as an example, in just the concept of something as simple as a playground on the south side of the community, like this all comes back to this decision. So I'm perfectly fine to take it out, but I think we still need to reference that there is, if we are going to consolidate, which is an if, not a right, we don't know, that Finn School continues to be the viable alternative that we are looking at this point in time.
So I think the thing that scares me more than anything else is now with this this overlay district going on, and God forbid there's so many different theories running around town about where they're gonna place it, and if they put it in some place like the EMC land, we could be faced with an onslaught of students, and the feasibility of closing a building may not even be there. I mean, I'm really scared about this. 15 units per acre, that's a lot. So,
Denise, are you, through the chair, Jason? may I?
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Are you concerned about are you concerned about mentioning it, or would you be open to softening it a
yes.
bit? I mean, I must admit that when I looked at it, I wasn't troubled, but since you mentioned it, now I'm wondering, all right. And I guess I wonder again through the chair if Greg or Stephanie have a view on, establishing at least some connection, okay, and at this time.
I'd be happy to comment.
But
I think there are going to be so many iterations and communications. I think that having it in there isn't going to hurt. I think the goal really should be signaling to the community some options. And I think this is a communication that over time will soon be forgotten. And there'll be many more to follow and clarify and update the community.
So going through what Roger said, do we think we want to soften it a little bit, or just, I just want anybody to think that we sort of have a decision made, that the decision has to be based on the best advantage to the school system versus anybody else's influence. And I just don't want that to be perceived. That's all.
I think for simplicity, given that this is the first update, if you think it's going to cause any concern, my preference would be to take it out. But I think we also all need to acknowledge by taking it out that the community center exploration committee is going to go to the select board to finish their charge in January, because we requested it as a building committee because MSBA asked about it. What would you do if we consolidate schools, right? So if the message from that committee was, we don't think it's a viable community center, that changes the whole dynamic of how you approach Neary, right? Versus like, i.e., you're still going to have 3 elementary schools theoretically, or you're going to basically have to figure something else out. So I do think we do need to tie them together, but I'm willing to wait till the next one when we have the designer on board and maybe a formal update from that committee.
I'll be happy with whatever we do. Softening it is fine, or going the route that you said, holding off until they come up with the design committee, that would be fine too. I just don't want to be I don't want to look like we're too tied in to another committee. That's all. That's just my.
How do we untie it, but still, but still, kind of get the message, at least get the message out that, that there could be consolidation. I think what Jason, I'm not putting words in your mouth, Jason, but I think your intent was to at least somehow or other make sure people don't forget that there's a possible consolidation, but not necessarily tie it to any decision that community center explanation is going to come up with regarding reuse, right?
I mean, it was more to remind people that I keep getting the question, like, people forget that Finn was in play. So it was using the opportunity, but I'm not wed to it because given that I sit on that other committee, I can use that committee's work to provide an update too, and obviously make sure that in particular everyone here is comfortable before that committee releases something. Because I think we are tied, whether anyone likes to admit it or not. I think we all agree the educational priorities of the community need to come first. And but I think you also need to work towards support, right? And if you don't get the support, you only get the support of certain demographic, then it's very tough to get to a 2/3 vote.
fortunately, I'm only one vote, but I'm more worried about someone coming back saying, well, why didn't you kind of mention this at the beginning? Okay. Than I am about, somehow or other, somebody's going to look at this as, wait a minute, now you're tying this to something other than the benefit of the schools. I think if we got it out there in some fashion now, without having to mention it again for a while, we at least can come back and I guess have have mentioned it early on, right? I mean, at least we've mentioned it in some fashion early on, then we've kind of moved on. You know what I'm saying, Denise? It just seems like it's almost a safer route to bring it up in some fashion.
I'm good with that. I just wanted everybody's opinion.
I think it's
I'm
a
good
good
with
point.
that.
How about this, Denise, in terms of softening it? How about I bold or capitalize the word should? So
Okay.
basically concurrent with the Neary Building Committee work, the Community Center Exploration Committee has been meeting regularly to determine potential reef options for the Finn School should this Neary project allow for the consolidation of schools.
I think that's good.
Right? Because then MBTA comes in and we need more space, like then obviously we come back to the drawing board.
Yep.
Okay. Were there
Thank you.
no, anytime. It's a good discussion. Any other comments on this? What are we thinking on signatories?
By the way, if I could add before that, and Denise, to your credit, I wouldn't have picked up on this at all as far as the potential negative to it if you hadn't brought it up. I just kind of scanned over it, but
Yeah, from a political point of view, I just want to be sure that everybody thinks that we're making independent decisions, because obviously there's a lot of emotion in town about what they're, who's going to go where or who's going to be able to be allowed to have a certain space. And I just want to be sure that that's never part of our decision-making process.
I think there's enough conversation in the community about this that there's going to be conversation about it. And I think if there's at least a mention of it, we can say, well, we have no idea what's going to happen. We did identify that consolidation is a possibility, but it's way, way too early on to determine if and how,
It also helps you. Go ahead.
Sorry, Jason. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it also helps you to get people's feelings and feedback early on.
True.
Which will then hopefully inform some of the actions we take as we go, as we learn more. Go ahead, Greg.
You could add some type of clause in there that Denise had just mentioned, concurrent with NBC work, although independent from the Neary Building Committee, the Community Center Exploration Committee. So if you just communicate that overtly somewhere in there, I think that would achieve Denise's goal.
Something like which is independent of the building committee. That kind of tries to disconnect it a bit, which by in and of itself would soften it a little bit too. It basically softens the connection, right? It kind of identifies there really isn't the connection. But by the way, this is going on.
All right, so I have concurrent with the Neary Building Committee work. Although working through an independent process, the Community Center Exploration Committee has been meeting regularly to determine potential reuse options for the Finn School should, bolded, this Neary project allow for the consolidation of schools.
Cool. That sounds good.
Thanks, Greg.
Concurrent with it.
In terms of signatories, I had thrown out Greg and myself with a full listing of the committee below it, so that if someone knows Denise, they can reach out to her and start talking to her about their feelings. But I feel like signing on behalf of 15 people is just not usually you write a letter. Go ahead, Roger.
Greg knows once you get me started on these rewrites, then you really ought to somehow throw me out of the meeting. Can you put that, that modification up again, Jason?
Um,
I'm looking for the word independent somewhere as a good word to, to kind of disconnect it. And I didn't see it in that, but maybe I just didn't. Concurrent. Oh, I'm sorry. Working through an independent process. How do you like totally independent process? What do you like?
well, I don't know that you can fully say that, given that I sit as capital
Right.
representative on both
Fair
committees.
enough. Fair enough. All right. I'll go on mute.
All right. Any other comments on the letter then? All right, then I'll move that the communications subcommittee thank Denise and Greg for their efforts and authorize the release of the revised version as shown on the screen. And I'll pause there. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Oops.
Okay. Tied. Mariana can make a decision on who seconded it first in the minutes.
I'm deferring to Denise.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Denise?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
And I am I as well. So Greg, once you and your team are ready to think about how to disseminate this, I assume you have a process through kind of your communication, but I'll probably also take it and give it to the town so we can think about letterhead and stuff like that offline.
All right, thank you.
All right. Next item is a very quick website update. So just so you know that Greg did reach out to the vendor that was responsible for Arlington Public Schools. I had an initial discussion with them last week to just give them an update on where our project's at. They will be providing us a quote probably in the next 10 days of various options we can have for a website. My intent would be once we get that quote to have a meeting and discuss what we want. The good news is we can opt out of something now and add it later. I have no idea pricing on this. I'm not going to even speculate. But it's basically going to be a templated such that it's basically as easy as typing into Word is how it was described to me. So we'll have a lot of options on maintenance of the site and how that goes forward from a subcommittee perspective. So it's coming. Any other questions on that? All right. I don't see any members of the public here. I don't have a meeting scheduled yet, so we'll wait for kind of the website update, but I think it was important to get this out. So I appreciate everyone's flexibility in scheduling it on shorter notice. And then I think we won't need to meet for at least a couple of weeks, and we'll give due notice when we're looking to schedule something. Any other business anyone has for tonight? Afternoon?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, roll call vote. Denise?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
And I am I as well. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
Thanks.
night.
Nice to
Good
see
night,
you all.
everybody.